Hey folks, welcome back to Straight Talk Whiskey. This is episode number 47 and also our end of year New Year's Eve whiskey review for you. So today we are going to be reviewing Redbreast 12-year single pot still Irish whiskey. Now, if you don't know already, the single pot still Irish whiskey is basically a mixture of malted and unmalted barley. And that history of making whiskey that way dates way back to the early days in Ireland when the British Crown imposed, these huge taxes on whiskey, basically on the malted barley itself. So what they did was say, okay, let's add some green unmalted barley. And basically that could stretch out their whiskey a little bit more without having to pay such huge taxes on it. So, Redbreast, where do we get that? Well, Redbreast comes originally from W&A Gilby, who were some wine merchants back in around 1857 or so in London. And they sold a bunch of wine and that sort of thing. They had upwards of, I want to say 700 or 800 different wines at the time. And they hopped around from different places and sourced some of their whiskey eventually from John Jameson and Sons. So they took that, and then what they did is take the nice sherry casks that they had in their own vaults and their cellars and that sort of thing, and aged some of the whiskey that they had from there. And what they came up with was Redbreast. Now, fast forward, 150 something years, and what we have is a Redbreast 12-year. Yeah, there's an age statement. It's interesting. You don't see that a lot these days. So, there we have that. Probably getting blocked there by the lights, but it's definitely Redbreast, so don't you worry. Put that over there. So, single pot still Irish whiskeys. Some people call them pure pot still Irish whiskeys. The name has changed pretty recently, I would say. But this, 50 years ago, would have been like finding a gold mine. It'd be like a blind man finding a gold mine, if you will, because that's just wasn't what people wanted. And basically to compete with the Scotch whiskey market, people wanted something smooth, something that was easy and palatable. You can notice a sort of parallel trajectory as they strayed away from the rye craze of the 1920s, around that area, in the US. And basically, what you wanted, or what you got from people, was people wanting smoother whiskey, something palatable for everybody to drink. Got a little wishy-washy, a little weak in my opinion. So, what they did was started weaning away from the pot still Irish whiskey that was, a staple of Ireland itself and is a phenomenal drink. It's just got this robustness to it in terms of spices that are going on there from the unmalted barley, but also a very viscous, oily, just a really unique texture to it. It doesn't seem like it was made from water or anything like that. It's very much its own entity. So, let's pour a little bit. And being the New Year's Eve, well, my last dram of New Year's Eve, I thought it would be fitting to do something that I really enjoy, which is this Redbreast. We'll have another Redbreast version coming to you very soon. Not going to say what that is yet, but be looking out for that. So, what do we have here? Well, first of all, we have a 40% ABV whiskey. I know, the booze and hem and haw out there. Could do with a little bit higher proof, but there is the Redbreast cask strength that's out there. It's a little bit higher in price, but at least they're putting out something that has both an age statement and is at cask strength. So, as you'll notice, it's just very light on color, as you would attribute to most Irish whiskeys. But when you smell it, what you get is something that still has the staple sort of aromas that you get with an Irish whiskey. It's light, it's fragrant, some floral notes in there, definitely the honey in there. But what you'll notice is that there is a nice malted barley note that's coming off of there. Something raw, something earthy to it, something nutty and textural to it. It really is just like fresh baked bread. It's got a nice ruddy spice to it. We're not talking about spices like a big kick of spice, but something more subtle, something more rooted in the earth and raw, that sort of thing. Let's go in for a taste. It's just something, you taste it, and you know that it's single pot still Irish whiskey. It's its own category. There's other pot still whiskeys out there, but in terms of the type of whiskey that it is, there's nothing else like it. Now, you'll be able to tell once you taste this sort of what was going on in people's heads early in the 20th century. Not why they switched that. There's no reasoning behind that. Like, oh, now I know why they switched. Oh, there goes the lights. But basically, it's just so distinct. It's so robust. It's different. It's not necessarily what people were looking for, and they wanted a more fruitier, sherry influence. Now, don't get me wrong. That's definitely in here because they do age it for a minimum of 12 years in some fine oak casks that could previously have had sherry in it, wink wink, but you definitely get that. There's a little bit of it in there, but it's not overly stated in like some scotches that you might have, even some other Irish whiskeys that could have been aged in sherry or other dessert wine casks. It doesn't have a huge impact on the flavor. It's just got a nice, raw earthiness to it. Now, it's so amazing to think that in this day and age, if you want to go out and find a single pot still, you're going to be paying a pretty hefty sum. Now, I believe this 12-year that I got was, I want to say $59 when I got it. It was a while ago. I'm sure the price is probably the same. There's a 15-year out there. There's a 12-year cask finish, or cask strength, yeah, cask finish. And then there's the 21 out there, and some others that you can't get here in the United States, like the Manilama version that's out there. Can't get that here, anyway, unless you get it shipped for some ridiculously outrageous price. And some states, like the one I live in, won't even let you ship it here, because that's the kind of rules we have here. But let's get back to the whiskey. Would it benefit from higher proof? Of course. But you can still get into what single pot still Irish whiskey is all about for a relatively reasonable price and an age statement. So, you know, it's sort of a trade-off, really, because a lot of times you go and find whiskeys that don't have age statements on it, but they'll be bottled at a little bit higher proof or something of that nature. You know, some little bit of different types of finishes on it, that sort of thing, some double maturations, that, you know, all different things going on there. But what you have here is just a nice, down-to-earth, you know, no fuss, no muss about it. Yes, you get the sherry note in there. You do get some of the wood cask influence in there. There is sort of the toasted wood note, but again, they all combine together, so there's nothing that really just stands out. But it's really the grain that is driving this type of whiskey rather than the cask finish or anything like that. So you have that going for you. It's just absolutely stunning. And this, even though it's at 40%, you could leave it out, like I've said with other things, and see what changes over a relatively short period of time, because you will get quite a change. But, you know, it's just really, it's really nice to have something like this as the last dram of the year. It's just something to get you back to basics, you know, just some malted and unmalted barley in there. A traditional way of making whiskey. So, there you go. Let's go in for the score. And hopefully we'll get some more single pot still Irish whiskeys in here for you. Let's see, for a score, we will go with let's say an 88 out of 100. Not too shabby. Could be some room for improvements. Like I said, a higher proof would be nice, that sort of thing. But it really is great at what it is. And, you know, something that you could just sit there and sit for a while. Let's see if there's any last information on here that I can give you. You know, it's made in Middleton and that sort of thing. There's no Redbreast distillery, but just really a stepping stone if you're just getting into whiskey, in particular Irish whiskeys. If you're looking to sort of have that the entry rock, if you will, into Irish whiskeys, go for a single pot still Irish whiskey. I think it's a great way to get into it. Just as, you know, palatable as Jameson or Bushmills or Paddy or something like that might be for a starting whiskey to get into. Redbreast is equally as good. Yes, the flavor profile in this gets a little bit more complex in the sense that you have malted, unmalted barley. What do those each impart into the whiskey? What does the cask impart to it? But nothing crazy. Just as easy to get into as blended Jameson is. So, you know, for Straight Talk Whiskey and for 2015, it's come and gone pretty fast. Almost up to a year of doing this review series, which has been great. I thank you for all your views, all your comments. It's great to be a part of this whole whiskey universe that we're a part of. And if you have a last dram of the year that you're going to be having tonight, let me know, comment, and we'll share in the magical event that is the end of the year and the beginning of a new year. So, cheers. If you're going to drink, do it responsibly, and we'll see you in 2016.